wake that ass up.
In the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Yes, it's the world's most dangerous morning show, The Breakfast Club. Charlamagne the God, Angela Yee, and we have our good sister in the building today.
Amanda Seals.
Big Seals. The Big Seals.
Oh, my God. Yes.
How are
It's been
you?
a long time.
Yeah, it has, right?
Yeah, because it was the
Damn.
beginning of the Panini the last time, and I wasn't physically here. I was
On Zoom.
I'm still not used to you not living in New York.
still?
Yeah, still. It just feels like you're supposed to live in New York.
Right. No, I don't live. I live in Calabackless. So it's been a long time. I bought a house. You know, I live a very different life than I was when I was last on the show, actually.
Life is amazing.
How are you?
I'm good. I mean, the world is trash. I feel like I'm good considering the world is trash, which makes it a daily conversation with yourself. Like, there's almost like a survivor's remorse or like a guilt about feeling good when the world is trash. Is it just me?
No, I'm reading this book now called The Big Leap, and that's what it talks about. It talks about how, like, you have to intentionally allow yourself to be happy in spite of.
But who said that? Like what's their reason? Like they're just like you have no
because
choice.
he calls it the ultimate something theory. I can't remember the exact name, but it's this theory that once you get over that, then you can get to your zone of genius.
I don't think you have to gloat about things going well for you, but you also should celebrate yourself when things do go well. It is
True, but so many of us don't.
It's true.
Yeah, because sometimes you downplay like things went well, but you don't want to say that because you know other people are
Absolutely
suffering. But
Bingo.
with things going well for you, you can help other people too.
But don't you? I definitely feel you. I also feel like the internets can definitely be like this place of, I don't know if policing is even the right word, but just like, no, you need to act this way about this, and you need to speak this way about this, or you're being disrespectful to this group, or et cetera, et cetera. So sometimes you just feel like, okay, I'm just gonna be in.
I'm not going to tell anyone. I was excited because I closed on a Airbnb investment property that I did. I've been wanting to do this.
Congrats.
Right. And so I was like, I'm so excited. It's like upstate New York. And so I was like, I'm excited. I got my first whatever. And then people were like, are you going to turn it into affordable housing? I was like, oh my God. See? Just get it.
By the way, the internet does no policing, by the way. The internet kicks down the door and they just come in blazing.
Right. Well, that's policing.
That
That's
is
why
true.
we need a no-knock rule.
That is policing. That is policing.
Well, Amanda, you know you always come up here and give us everything.
What you want today? I really was thinking, I was like, what are we going to give today?
Well, you in the rumor report yesterday, Yee.
Yes, we talked about what you had to say about the real, not including you. And I know you
wasn't
wanted
much.
to express what happened behind the scenes because they did their farewell episode and they paid homage to all the hosts, but
No.
somehow you were
Not
left out.
all.
Right.
In my mind, when you ended it with the ... I'll have more to say about this. In
That
my
meant-
mind,
Breakfast Club.
floor is yours.
Well, you know, I actually have my own place, the Amandaverse, that people can subscribe to.
Oh,
It's
yes.
like, and if you rock with me and you want to support the independent artist in me, then you can subscribe there for $5 and you will get a full taste of that whole scenario. I mean, listen.
Can we get a small dose here?
You can get us, and my podcast is small doses.
Ooh,
Yes. First of all, let me just say that I'm always shocked at people's willingness to shit on folks who are advocating for themselves and like to call it something else. You know, like me leaving the Real and me verbalizing the reasons why I left the Real, which I verbalized as because one, it wasn't feeding my soul because it was being misrepresented. It was a white leadership that was, you know, outwardly presenting as a show of diverse voices. But the leadership and the decision making about what content was being produced, et cetera, was not being done by people who were even involved in. It's not to say that there aren't like, you know, white people that are involved in communities outside of whiteness, but these people weren't. You know what I'm saying? So that, along with a myriad of other things in terms of like a toxic work environment and just business practices and professional practices that didn't even just affect me. They affected my makeup team. They affected my glam team. You know, like they affected my assistant. Like they affected the other hosts. Like it was not just a singular issue, but that is what I said was the reason why I left. And then when this happened and I was like, you know, I think it's interesting that I was left out. People's argument is, well, I don't know why you thought they would include you. You was talking shit about the show. And it's like, me holding an employer accountable for behaviors and for practices that are deleterious to the positive work environment of people there is not shitting on the show. You know, I never talked about my co-hosts. I never made it about the actual talent on the show. I made it about the leadership. And I feel like that's what we need to be doing. When we look at Chris Smalls and him creating this union, you know, in the midst of Amazon, it's not him saying don't order from Amazon, but he's saying like, yo, there needs to be better business practices and we need to be able to challenge and have that. I think some people think because it's TV or whatever that it's like, how dare you want better for anything? Like, you get to be on TV, you get to be glamorous, you get to get money. By the way, I wasn't really getting that money on there. But it's really about just saying, like, why should anybody have to settle for being treated below their worth in any environment?
And that's how change can happen, too. If somebody speaks out about it and talks about leadership.
Which is how they ended up with a Black EP. That's how they ended up with a Black executive producer, because I came out and was vocal, which inspired some of the people who were still remaining on the cast to challenge and say that needs to be in place in order for us to continue to be here. So, you know, I think some people just don't fuck with me. And so they're just going to try and come with any reason to be like, well, I don't know why she... But truthfully, I am, in this particular instance, I'm going to stand on the fact that at the end of the day, if you're going to do a retrospective of the show over the years that it's been on and the hosts that have been on it, it don't matter what I say.
You were a host of the show.
I was a host on the show.
I mean, they kind of proved you right. You know what I mean? Seriously, if you're saying that this show wasn't good for my spirit because of X, Y, and Z, and then they purposely and intentionally leave you out, it's like...
Which I have confirmed was the case.
Duh, it's obvious.
Like, it wasn't like, oh, we forgot her. It's nah.
Yeah.
Then people are like, oh, well, she was only there for 5 minutes. No. I was there for 6 months. 3 of those months were in a pandemic. And I signed a contract. I lived out my contract. You wasn't with me shooting in the gym at 4:30 a.m. going in there to do that. You know, like, it really is incredibly taxing on all parts of your life, your personal, physical, mental, etc. I'm not complaining about that part, but I'm saying, like, I committed myself to this and I gave myself to that. And I feel like, I know from the individuals who have taken time to tell me, and I thank all of you, I know that I contributed immensely to that space. Right? So, like, that's what really means the most to me is, like, I've had so many positive... Envy's positivity water. I've had so many people drinking positivity water and coming in my DMs and on Twitter, et cetera, and saying like, yo, that was screwed up. Shout out to you. Like, you made the show elevate. You were a light in the space of this project. And I just hate that folks really don't understand the difference between shitting on something and calling for change.
Yeah, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Tamar have issues too?
Tamar had issues. Allegedly, she had like apologized, and that's why they included her. But I have nothing to apologize about. If they should be apologizing to me. You know, the leadership of that show should be apologizing to me. And in the Amandaverse, I will speak more to, you know, scenarios that I feel like took place on that show that led to me saying it doesn't feed my soul. But ultimately, they had the opportunity to do right in this instance, and they chose not to. That's, to me, the case. When people are like, well, why would you expect them to show you love? Because when you have the opportunity to do right by the people you wronged, take it.
What about the women on the show when they see you, the other hosts? Are they friendly? Do you speak to
we haven't even seen anybody, really, in, like, years because of this panini. But Jeannie and Adrian hit me up, and were like, that's bullshit. We did not realize that was, you know, happening. And we were going to do a live, an Instagram live, but then our schedules didn't line up, and it was just like, you know, it's fine. But they, you know, I talk to Jeannie and Adrian all the time.
Okay.
The one thing I want to reiterate before we get off the reel is that it didn't take you long to know that show didn't agree with your spirit. And I think people don't realize that because they only see what they see when you talk about it. But behind the scenes, you knew. Like, you was like, I'm done in this 6 months. You said that probably the first week.
No, I didn't say it the first
Maybe
week.
the first month at least.
Well, because you just start to realize that what you were told is not what it is. And that's just it. You know, I thought I was being brought in there to elevate conversations. You know, I was told that they wanted to have more talk about stuff going on in the zeitgeist and social justice, et cetera. And then I learned that wasn't really why I was brought in there. That was a portion, but I was really brought in there, to kind of like be a villain because the women on the show at that point had basically like just started not having opinions on things because they really just didn't want to deal with the internet response. And they wanted to just keep things chill. And also they've been there so long that they always knew what each other was going to say. So they brought me in there to like shake the table. Shout out to K. Michelle. And I guess if I knew that was the assignment, I would have decided differently if I wanted to sign up for that, but that's not what I thought I was signing up for.
Gotcha.
All right, let's move on to something else.
Oh, God.
Sirius XM.
Oh,
Hey.
Look at you going back.
that's why I'm like, where the fuck is this Evie nigga? Goddamn.
Woo! So you're back also with the show on Sirius. Never thought we'd see that happen.
Y'all don't understand. Ange and Envy and I was at Sirius, and it was a time.
All at the same time.
It was a time, honey. And the full circle is really wild, right? You got to listen, you got to stick to your guns because regimes change, okay? Regimes change. And so much of any game that you're in is just stamina. It's really just like staying the course. So I was on Sirius. That was my first job out of college. I literally like ended up on Sirius because I went to do spoken word at a Jesse Jackson event, and there was a program director that was at the event, and he gave me his card and was like, hey, I think you would be good on the radio. I thought he meant like to do an interview. Oh, thanks. Get me together, Ange. She's like, good at your titties. And so I thought he was just saying like for an interview. So I go. So first of all, I didn't trust it because niggas be like acting like they gonna give you a job or something.
They're like, take this photo with your shirt off.
What?
For real. Like you think that you're going to do some real
Something
shit.
serious. And
then you show up and they're like, actually, this is my house. And so I looked at the card and it had Rockefeller Center as the address. And I was like, oh, I guess this is legit. And I went down there and he interviewed me. But I thought he was interviewing me for a radio show, but he was like interviewing me to interview. And he interviewed me while he was, I guess what I'm saying is he interviewed me on the show, but he was like doing a job interview simultaneously. And after he was like, would you want to be a host on radio? And I was like, I mean, I
sure
guess, yeah. And so I started doing radio. And then 9 months in, I was in the right place at the right time when Outkast needed to be interviewed. And these other guys, the Wonder Twins, they had to cancel because they had another gig, and so their boss was like, "Well, you seem to know a lot about Outkast. Do you want to do the interview?" And I was like,
"Imagine having to cancel on Outkast."
I know, and it was like
Outkast,
speaker box, Love Below, like.
Sheesh.
And so I did the interview. My first interview ever was Outkast, but I was at, which is like, I remember during that interview. It was during a time when, because they were doing Speaker Box and Love Below, people were trying to say that they weren't getting along, and people love conflict. Always trying to make shit like about some dissension. And as I was talking to the brothers, Big Boy was very intense. He was like, people keep trying to make it like we not brothers anymore, like we ain't rocking. And then Dre like starts singing in the background, you can win as long as you keep your head to the sky. And then the whole room went, be optimistic. I was like, oh shit. And then we were in the elevator and their DJ put his hand in my hair and was like, oh, that's your hair.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, so we've covered spectrums here. But I was at Sirius for 4 years. And it became a very difficult place to be because there's like one person who like made it difficult, but Ange and Envy like made that ride like they made it possible for me to like still persevere in that space. And I learned a lot there. And then I got fired because my boss was an interesting individual. We'll just leave it there. But I got fired because I went to the VMAs and I had gotten somebody to fill in for me. And I had asked the person in charge if that could happen. And they said, yeah. But then the person above them, like, he was like, you're being insubordinate. And so I got fired and then I got banned.
Shouldn't you want your personality to go to the VMAs?
Yes, you should, unless you're jealous of them.
And then you got banned?
I got banned from Sirius for 7 years.
And Amanda was working really hard there. She was on every single day. It was an intense job that you had. So
I was on 2 channels. I was working every day. I was actually able to make my major at Columbia, which in grad school was African American Studies with a concentration in hip hop. I was able to do that because I was surrounded by so many greats at Sirius. You know, like I was recording in the midst of like MC Light in one studio, and I look across and Grandmaster Flash is there, and then Red Alert, and so I had like all these incredibly wise, you know, legends at my disposal to interview, and so they were able to like really make me having that major make sense and do archival study. But to come back and circle back and now be there in the comedy space with Smart, Funny, and Black Radio on LOL Network, Channel 96, on, you know, Kevin's network, that's like, it's trippy. My mom like cried. I can't believe it. You're back. You're back.
So what brought you back? Was it
Kevin Hart.
Kev? With Kev?
So I did Kev's podcast, and on his podcast, he had asked me like, well, do you think things have advanced for Black women comics? And I was like, no. And, you know, it hasn't. I mean, for all intents and purposes, like, there's Black women comics who are just still in the mix and doing our thing, but it's not like the same opportunities are put out there for us. I mean, for me, like, I've had to really just come to understand that I can't chase Hollywood any longer. Like, I need to really focus on my audience. And I think I had it wrong for a long time, where I didn't truly understand the importance of my audience to me. You know, for other people, I think they look at their audience as people who are just like going to watch their show, or, you know, people who are just going to buy their tickets. But for me, being an independent artist and being someone who speaks so honestly and subversively, my audience is not just people that are buying tickets. My audience are the people who are supporting my livelihood and like my emotional and mental security in terms of being able to continue to come out against things in that way.
To speak freely. Yeah.
But in a way that doesn't feel like you're all... Because, you know, if you don't have that, then it feels like, damn, like, you're always confronting. You're always hostile. But when you have that audience that understands, like, no, this is not confrontational. This is not hostile. This is change agent. This is being a truth translator. Like, that makes you feel so much more grounded in your purpose and also more secure, and which allows you to be more creative. That starving artist shit, I don't create well in that space. So in order for me to fully understand that, like, I had to divorce myself from realizing that I don't want to be chasing Hollywood. Like, ideally Hollywood would chase me, but that is really all about me, like, making sure that my audience feels connected to me in a real way. And for Sirius and for being a Black woman comedian, like, that's something that I had to truly grasp. And when Kevin was like, well, what do you want to do? If you want to do anything, the radio show felt like a dope independent space to continue to do that, to continue to build my audience and fortify it by speaking honestly. And, you know, Sirius has allowed me to do that. Smart, Funny, and Black Radio is hosted by me and Jeremiah Like the Bible and Taj Rani, and these are folks that have worked with me for years. Jeremiah was an intern in our Smart, Funny, and Black internship program. My man is our engineer and music producer, and he D-Wills, and he creates all of our sound imaging on the show. It's a family affair.
Word. Radio's definitely in your bag, though. I mean, that's something that I feel like you should have always been doing.
You know, radio is it's for the people who can speak. Like, I know they've said, like, oh, radio is for people who aren't for TV, but radio is really just for people who can verbalize and articulate, and, like, all three of us can just talk and talk and talk.
And radio
every
is
day.
so visual now, too. I feel like
You're
it
right.
used to be that way. You know, when I first started, people didn't know what I looked like.
Right.
So it's just changed so much.
How did the ending of Insecure feel for you?
Triumphant. Insecure was a journey. And, you know, it was one that I didn't, like, set forth. I didn't come to LA with the mindset of, like, I'm going to get on a show and it's going to be, you know, big, because so many of us don't even get to dream that, right? Like, first of all, it's like getting on a show is like getting in the NBA. And then a show that's actually successful is like going to the finals. You know what I'm saying? And
y'all won a championship.
And then being on a show that's iconic is like winning a chip, right? And so I didn't foresee any of that. So to be a part of that was super dope. I'm not gonna say that it was a completely positive experience, you know, But I will say that it was a learning experience, and then I met some really great people that have become like an integral part of my life.
It's very surreal, right? It's like, because it's like, I look at us as we're all classmates. We all came up together. So it's just
Right.
like, damn, listen, Amanda was on Insecure for 5 seasons.
You're silly.
Like, that's how I feel. Like, it's like, I don't know. It's like, wow, like, damn, I know her. Like,
You know what's funny? I was talking to my boy Carlos from 85 South.
Carlos Miller.
Charts of Lows, and he was like, you a whole superstar. And I was like, who? I know there's people right now, they're like, who? I don't even know her. So I agree with you. Like, I don't, I feel like I've just continued to plot my course. But I guess when he's saying that, it's because it's like, yeah, but you've continued to plot your course.
I mean, you had a whole HBO special.
I did have a whole
That's a
HBO
huge deal.
special. And I'm in the process of getting my shit together for my next special. That's why I'm going on tour. That's why I'm here to announce the Black
Outside.
We Black Outside again, the Black Outside Again tour. Stand up ran away from me during the pandemic. I just I didn't miss it. I didn't, I did 2 sets in 2 years.
Wow.
And neither of those sets were anything to write home about. Like, I was like, oh, I guess I'm not good at this anymore. And then 3 months ago, I just got up and was like, it's time. It's time to get back going. And I really, really appreciate the venues in LA who just, opened their arms back and were like, you ready to get back on stage? Well, we're ready to have you. And because that's the only way you get your shit back is by repetition. And so I'm back on the road. I just had 2 sold out shows at the Improv. It was so nice to just be back in front of my audience. Because, when you're doing showcase shows, you're just in front of whoever shows up. So a lot of times that's just like mediocre whites, Like you just doing stand up for mediocre whites that don't know shit about shit. You having to explain shit. You say Juneteenth and they're like, ooh, what's that? You talk about actual issues going on and they're like, I'm uncomfortable. So that's not who I want to speak to. I want to speak to audiences that are interested in not only laughing but learning and like leveling up. And so I got to do that at the Improv recently. And my second show, I did 1 hour and 40 minutes.
Wow.
And I still have material left over.
So is it material or is it
Yeah.
Let's go out here and just talk to the people?
It's both. I mean,
Okay.
that's how I perform, but it's material. I mean, it's jokes. It's jokes. It's stories. It's, we're talking about the repeal of Roe v. Wade. We're talking about, deep vaginas. I mean, we cross.
Yeah.
We cross.
A lot of comedians have said, fuck it. And they just be going out there doing their podcast live.
I hate it. I hate that.
Yeah,
by the way.
I like the structure of how you do your work.
Thank you.
Because you can riff inside of that, but I like the fact that it's like an outline.
It's got to be a structure.
And certain things that hit.
Listen, like comedy to me is a craft. Not just to me. It is a craft. Comedy is a craft. And when I came into the comedy space, there were people that were kind of looking at me sideways because they thought I was going to be on some like, oh, put me on. They thought I was going to TI the shit, okay? They thought I was just going to walk in and be like, well, I'm me, so put me there because I'm me, right? And even though like the I'm me was different than where, what T.I. has done in rap, it's still like, yeah, but this is a whole new space. So like you need to come into this space and have regard for the uniqueness of this space. And there's a humility about that, right? And I feel like I learned so much in stepping into comedy from a humble space because it allowed me actually to advance faster because I was just taking in. I was just learning, taking in. And, you have some people who look at you sideways. You have some people who say, I'm not going to help you. You're going to figure it out. But there's so many other folks who really regard their status in comedy as a responsibility to help other folks come up. And it's not necessarily like to take you under your wing, but there's a very kiss the ring and then let me impart wisdom to you exchange that happens in comedy. I've had that with Dave Chappelle. I've had that with Chris Rock. I've had that with Paul Mooney where
God bless the dead.
God bless the dead, where they said to me, I appreciate what you're doing. Here's what you could do better, right? Or here's where I see something that you can tap into. And I wouldn't have had that if I came in that space with ego, right? And so because I feel like I was so willing to receive the insight and the input, and not to say that you got to take everything in, but I was willing enough to understand that like I'm the novice here. So help me, build me up, and pour into me the way I'm pouring into this space. And
people want to see you taking it seriously too and putting in the work.
right.
And so you've been taking it seriously and putting in the work.
I mean, I shut everything down. That's what I was doing. I like really came into the comedy space and really committed myself. I just remember being down in like the village during the polar vortex and saying to myself, damn, nigga, like you really committed to this shit. It's a polar vortex.
Because everybody felt like they could get on stage and be a comedian until they get on stage and try to be a comedian.
All right.
I mean, listen, Shar, I
People be
remember
like, "I'm
Shar
so
being
funny."
like, I'm not doing this no more. You were like, I feel like you remember, if I remember correctly,
Because
you were
everybody
like,
was telling me I should do it, so I said, you know what, I'm going to host them. So I have other comedians, and then in between, I'll come out
and do
and
some.
see how it feels. I'm like, hell no.
Because I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, but you said something like, I don't have the commitment to write.
I don't have the commitment, nor do I have the stomach for it. I can't stand it. I can't be on that stage and say something and people just looking at you stupid. I just
Well,
can't
you know
do
what?
it.
There's a corner you turn where you realize, like, I'm funny. So if y'all ain't laughing right now, like, maybe I'm off today, or maybe y'all just dumb.
I guess that comes with commitment.
It does. I mean, it comes with enough time. I mean, literally, confidence is based on just like you being able to have a fact-based reflection, right? I feel like so much of confidence is just being able to think back for a second and be like, wait, no. Remember, you made people laugh those other 3 times. So, like, you ain't all bad.
Yeah.
But I definitely take comedy very, like, it's a superpower. Like, it really legitimately feels like a superpower. And now I'm at a point where I can call on it. And that's trippy. Like, being able to just, after 2 years of not doing shit, say I'm ready, and then be able to have an hour and 40 minutes of material in 3 months, and not just bullshit material, because I'll keep it a buck with myself. At first, it was bullshit material, because you just like,
Working through it.
yeah, but you keep pushing yourself, and I want to really, I'm challenging myself to be a comic that does more than just jokes. You know, I want these to be things that you come back to later, that you laugh at, but that
like George
also,
Carlin.
That's literally what I was about to say.
I watched his doc this weekend.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
I always heard, but I didn't know. I was like, damn,
George
bro.
Carlin, Dick Gregory.
Dick Gregory, absolutely.
You know, like that to me is where I would love for my comedy to end up. I want it to end up in a place where people look at it as the comedy of record for this time that is acknowledging what's going on at the same time as, like you said, like fighting for your joy simultaneously.
Is this another HBO special you have in the works?
It's another special. You know, in a perfect world, I would put it out independently. I would really like to give y'all a special for free. Like, I really just want to make some shit and give it to the people and let that be its own thing. I'm really trying to...
Why not do it?
I am.
Okay.
Well, I'm really trying to change the model. You know what I'm saying? And identify a model that doesn't rely on somebody else to say yes, who don't even really care about you. You know, like you're trying to fit into these mandates, and yeah, a lot of people don't understand this TV shit is not about like what's good.
No.
That's not really what they're making decisions on. It's based on a whole
It's actually
lot of...
weird because it's based on what already worked. So it's like the mandates will be, well, we need something like this, but you already did that. Let's find out what's next.
And even if you are going to do that, it's like, how do we innovate that?
Yeah.
And they're like, ooh, that's scary. You know, so for me, I'm like, how do I create a world where I just don't have to rely on these other factions for yes? That's why my audience is so important, because if I have the support of them, they're supporting me because they know what I'm about. They know what I'm bringing. And so when I'm looking for support from them for something that I want to do, I'm not having to convince. They get it. They understand, you know? I mean, the dream is to get a Louis C.K. deal like he had with his show at FX, where they literally were just like, okay, we want you to do a show. And he was like, well, I'm only going to do a show under these terms. I'm not going to take notes. I'm not going to do budget approvals. You're basically going to send me a check. I'm going to shoot the show, edit it, and I'll send it back. And they were like, fine.
Wow.
I mean, I think we're all aspiring to have the kind of freedom that white men have.
Yeah.
Not the freedom to oppress,
Yeah.
but the freedom of options.
Absolutely. Are you afraid because, you know, comedy isn't the same Comedy isn't as safe as it was 2 years ago. Sales, people getting attacked on stages. You know what I mean? Like the greats are getting attacked on stages. Like,
I wouldn't say I'm afraid. I'm more sad about that. I mean, going back out on the road is really exciting because this internet tricks you into thinking that the people on the internet are all that exist.
Yeah.
And the negativity on the internet is very, very loud. So when you get in front of actual like physical humans, it balances that out because it's like actual analog interaction is way louder than digital.
Yeah,
right?
you gotta live your life. I always say that. That's why I don't spend that much time on social media.
Lucky you.
and you see people got love for you.
Yeah, you get to see that for real. I mean, like when
Nothing ever happens in real life that happens on social media when people come at you. In real life.
Ever.
Yeah.
In real life, people show love. I mean, that's not a challenge, by the way. But in real life, people show love. Like when I'm posted on the Shade Room, I feel like a voodoo doll. Like I feel like I can feel the pricks. Like
No,
I won't
for
even
real.
look at the comments because I already know it's not going to be good.
not
So
gonna
I
be
just
good.
be like, ugh. And as soon as I remember we were doing an interview, somebody's like, oh, they put you on the Shade Room. I was like, oh my God, no. Like it already feels bad.
Because you have a group of people that are committed to misunderstanding you. They've made up their mind. You're not going to change it. It does not matter.
the Shade Room is everyone who made fun of me in high school, but like on a
One
platform in one space, like eating lunch together and being like shade, shade, shade. You know. So, but in person, it's the light room. You know, it's folks that are happy to be there. They spent their money, you know, so
Yeah.
they gonna enjoy it. They're gonna have a good time. And I've been really fortunate to affect people's lives. Like people now come to me and say like, yo, you're the reason I moved. You know, you're the reason I left my job and pursued a career that really actually makes me happy. You're the reason I broke up with this nigga who was treating me like trash, or broke up with this chick who was, you know, not regarding me with any level of respect. And like that to me is like, oh, this is now beyond just like, you funny girl. And that means a lot more. When you go out and like people say that for you in real time, it's like, okay.
I saw you did a interview where you talked about a psychic telling you what it was that you needed to do as far as education-wise.
Oh, yeah, my professor.
Your professor, right. So do you still see psychics?
You know what? I haven't since like the first year of the pandemic, but I did see a psychic, and she was the one who told me, because I told her, I was like, I don't really think I want to have kids. And she was like, yeah, in your chart, there's no kids. She was like, there's mothering in your chart, but not in the sense of as a like rearing a child. It's more so in the sense of like being a nurturing force for like the people. And she had also said that she was like, oh, like your relationship is strong. Like this is not like a flash in the pan. And she's right. I mean, who I'm with is who I'm going to be with until one of us die. So, but that's, you know, I feel like psychics sometimes are more just like general, but she was like specific.
Very specific.
Yeah. So ever so often. I haven't recently, but and I feel like I typically see psychics that are more astrologically inclined than just like I feel like this is going to happen and then that's that.
I like mediums. I like the spirit guides that can talk to you, the ancestors and spirits around you.
I've never done that.
Oh no, the two I've spoken to have been beyond accurate.
I thought you were going to say beyond daiquiri, and I was like, what? It's like, what does that
No, they've
mean?
been beyond. Like they were on point. Like wow.
You know what's nice? What's nice is that there's like so little drama in my life that this is a boring interview.
It's not. It's a good
No, I don't think it was
conversation.
at all. It was a
It's
lot
like-
of great content here.
But
I
no,
already
you-
got my headlines together.
And you didn't answer about the safety. Are you going to have security with you?
Yeah, I mean, I always have security just because I'm a woman,
Gotcha.
in this world. So it's not like I look at it like I need to have a security with the AR-15, but I definitely have security just because we've always lived in a world that did not protect women. So I don't like to roll deep because I like to move through, you know, easily. Like even when I would be in the club, like I never rolled like a big pack of people. It was like, we need to be able to be in and out of this. But I definitely will have security. And I was in Sacramento one time and a dude just walked on my stage. Like, and it was a little ass stage. Like, it wasn't
You're like, somebody, hello.
literally. Like, and my homeboy was there for the sole purpose. I know he listening right now. I'm talking about you. He was there for the sole purpose of the fact that he was about to join us on tour as security.
Wow.
So he's there. He's sitting on the side of the stage. He's eating French fries, and a whole ass man walks down the aisle, up the stairs, and onto my stage. It was one of these little platform stages, and I'm just like, "What's happening right now?" The dude is like, "Yo, I love you so much. I really just want to be with you." Da 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 da. I look over, and my nigga is eating French fries.
Was he real security or just?
No, he was nigga security.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
at the end of the day,
He realized in that moment, like most people do when they get on stage, like, this ain't for me. I didn't know this was
I
actually
need you
gonna
to
happen.
realize that before I'm in danger, though. You know what I'm saying? When I looked over and he was like, like, I felt like I could see the salt crystals, like, dissolving on his tongue
Yikes.
as this man stood in front of me. And this man could have done anything to me. Like, he was close enough to where he could have done anything. And the security at the venue also didn't move. So I finally had to be like, hey, like, what's help?
Yeah.
Come on. So then people came and took him down, but homeboy still sat there. And after the show, he was like, I mean, well, what did you want me to do? I didn't identify any danger. And I was like, you know.
He got fired before his first day.
Correct.
Have you ever beefed with a comic over headliner status?
You know, that situation is confusing to me because it feels like they were both duped. I don't know if
Feels like the promoter.
Yeah, it feels like the
Yeah.
promoter duped them. So it feels like it feels very white colonizer behavior where you create the conflict and then you remove yourself from it. And you're like, okay, now fight Negroes. And I don't know, I don't know what background this producer was from, but this is definitely white colonizer behavior, the promoter. Because I've never beefed over anything with a comic. Not enough for me to remember right now. Not about comedy. You know, what I love about the comedy space, people would be like, oh, like, you're in comedy? That's so difficult. So difficult. I'm like, I come from hip hop. Like, that was a much harder space, Like, I didn't have a dick. I didn't have a gun. You know what I mean? It was just a much harder space. The world of rap. Comedy is a lot more, I feel like, just meritocracy and, if you funny, you funny. I had a moment the other day where I did a show and it was a black show and I bombed.
Recently?
Yeah. It was my version of bombing. It was earlier that day I had gotten some bad news. I was trying to do Smart, Funny, and Black as a Juneteenth special. And Smart, Funny, and Black is my live variety game show. I've been touring it since 2016. We will have Smart, Funny, and Black dates on the Black Outside Again tour, so you can catch us in LA, Detroit, Atlanta,
Brooklyn.
I think I have one here.
Brooklyn.
King's Theater?
King's Theater.
October 29th?
Yes. And
Okay.
we will be at the Kennedy Center. So I'm doing a weekend at the Kennedy Center, 22nd and 23rd. So you can see stand-up, you can see my podcast live, Small Doses, and you can see Smart, Funny, and Black. So DC has always been like an incredible market for me. I'll tell you how shit changed. In January of 2019, I was doing the Kennedy Center in July. I promoted it in January. The tickets sold out in 2 weeks.
Wow.
We are now in 2022. The algorithm doesn't operate the same way. It's so much harder to get to people and let them know about like your shit that, DC just is still finding out like, oh, you're coming back. And I feel like I've been getting love to any DC people who are out there. Like, thank you for showing love and being like, oh, I didn't know. Let me get my tickets. But I was like very excited to be back in the DMV because they have always like shown up for the kid. So I've lost my train of thought. But
When
I was
are those
talking
dates?
about
When the Kennedy Center?
Kennedy Center is July 22nd and
Okay.
23rd.
All right.
So I was. What were you?
You say you bombed.
Oh yeah, I bombed. So I went and I did this show. Shout out to Nichelle Turner. She's been doing Crack 'em Up Thursdays at the Comedy Store for fucking ever. And I mean that's where I met Tiffany Haddish so many years ago. And that night I learned that the Smart, Funny, and Black Juneteenth special that I had sold, that we were going to have to walk away. And we had to walk away because the network that we were selling it to refused to negotiate with us and give us the money that we needed to do the show that we sold them. And it was so frustrating because I felt like I had gotten so close and I knew that we couldn't do this because it was going to require us to have to ask for favors. And it's so irritating to me that so often with Black projects, we have to ask for favors. We have to, eke this shit out. And it's not to say that other projects don't have the same thing, but this was particularly a Juneteenth project that I was doing in partnership with juggernauts, okay? I was doing this in partnership with Jesse Collins and with Heartbeat. and we shouldn't have had to deal with those types of limitations and obstacles, because it really should have been like, oh shit, like how can we make this happen? And the idea to me of having Black creatives work for free on Juneteenth.
Yeah, you can't shortchange Black creatives for a Juneteenth special.
I can't.
Like,
It's completely counterintuitive. Yeah. And these networks are going to make hand over fist. They're going to make money hand over fist because we already know that Smart, Funny, and Black is successful. I've already done it for 6 years. I've already sold out several tours. I've already proven with proof of concept that this is an entity that people love. It's a space of Black love. It's a space of Black joy. It's a space of Black celebration. We always say it's a revival, a HBCU reunion, and a family reunion. It's a revival, an HBCU homecoming, and a family reunion all in one. Smart, Funny, and Black is that. Who don't want to go to that? And if you can do that on TV, who don't want to see that? But I had to walk away from it. It just broke my heart that I was once again put in that position of having to stand on principles in the face of this predatory capitalist bullshit. And I
hit the stage
after that. And I just did not hit it. And after that, so then I knew, okay, that was not a good, because you see at that show, all the Black comics are standing there looking at you like, that's what you doing? Like, I guess Insecure ended and she not hitting. And so then 3 days later, I had to do the Comedy Store with the same Black comics were going to be there. And it was like, bitch, you better fucking get it together. And I was sitting backstage, and Guy Torrey came up to me, and he was like, he was hosting. He was like, so what you want me to tell them? He was like, where are you from? And I said, I'm from Florida. He was like, okay. I was like, but don't say that, because like, then I don't know, like, just don't. That doesn't matter. But y'all, when I came on stage, 3 different brothers, they weren't even together. 3 different brothers gave me a standing ovation when I came on stage, and I was like, oh, this is different. And they was like, yes. And they were cisgendered heterosexual brothers at that. So it was more like, yes. But I think I just translated in my head to like, yes. In my head, everything is yes.
Because the yes confused me. Then you said cisgender.
Then
and I was like, really?
Yeah. Then it was yes. And they was like, yeah. Say your shit. And so then that like gave me some strength back. And then I had one of the best sets. That was the set that let me know it's time to go on the road. And like Chris Spencer was there and Flex, and I had to walk through the crowd to like get to my car after. And like, it's always dope when people feel like the need to stop you and be like, yeah,
that's great.
That right there. And I'm gonna tell y'all, like, as women, we dress for women, but I'm not gonna lie to you, Black men are hard as fuck to make laugh, like, because that's a whole other conversation. It's about feelings and the suppression of emotions, etc. But like, when you walk through that crowd and the brothers are like, I see you, sis. I see you. Like, it feels good because you want your people to see you because you see your people. That let me know, like, okay, that was just like a bad night. You're good.
When you bomb, do you stay and watch the end of the show, or do you leave?
I always leave because I'm old. I mean, at this point, I want my bed. Like, I always leave because I'm old and like I'm not here to hang out. Let me tell you something. One of the biggest keys, anybody out there who's like trying to be a stand-up comedian and really trying to like get in there, if you're just sitting on your couch trying to think about it, you need to know that mingling is a part of the journey. Like, it's just as much a part of it as having material. You need to be willing to go and just hang out with other comics. I am an extroverted introvert. I don't like hanging out like that. Like, I don't like feeling like the new kid in school. And was like the hardest part of transitioning into comedy. So now that I'm at a level where I don't have to do that as much, I take that leave. I'm like, that was great. Have a good set. I'm out.
That's why I was looking. I was like, I wonder how she felt at the brunch. At the Heartbeat Brunch.
I felt great.
Okay.
I felt great at the Heartbeat Brunch because I felt in family. I felt in community.
Gotcha.
I wasn't mingling. I was literally like, it felt like I was at a reunion.
Amongst your peers, word.
I mean, my shoes came off. That lets you know.
Yeah.
That's like when Fantasia about to hit them notes and she let them shoes off, know it's about to happen. That's when you see my shoes off, oh, she's comfortable. And it was a beautiful vibe and energy in that space because also, like, I didn't feel like anybody was there to be seen. We were there to see each other.
All right. Well, Amanda, how can people get tickets?
You can get tickets to the Amanda Seales Black Outside Again tour by going to amandaseales.com. You can follow me on Instagram. You can go to theamandaverse.com if you're really about this Amanda movement and be a part of the SEAL squad. And, you can also just, I just want to say for everybody out there, like, we are in a very critical time.
Man, that's an understatement.
We're in a really critical time, and any energy I feel that we are spending, particularly as Black people, against questioning another Black person's Blackness, like, any energy we're spending in terms of determining, like, well, you not Black because da-da-da-da-da, I feel like is energy that we are taking away from challenging anti-racism, from challenging anti-Blackness, from challenging, these Democrats to actually do any of the things that they said they were going to do. Like, when we said hold these people accountable in order to get our vote, like, that meant we need to be a force. We need to come together, and we need to demand this needs to happen. But in order to make those demands, we have to be working in tandem together. We have to have a certain level of, like, okay, maybe I don't agree with you on everything, but I do agree with you on us. And there's going to be Black folks who aren't a part of that. There's anti-Black folks that are just out here like roaches, just scuttling around. And
they're agents of chaos.
They're agents of chaos.
Yeah.
They are, they left the spiritual base and are praising the same God as these cretins, which is the God of greed. And those folks I don't fuck with. Those folks don't get to come to the barbecue, and those folks don't get the access to the ancestral knowledge that we do have. But there are folks far from that may not agree with me on things, but they are not that. And those folks are the ones, like, that we need to align. We may not agree on everything, but we agree on us. And I feel like when we can really start to harness that, we will be able to make so much more change. And that's what I'm doing at my shows. I'm trying to harness that. So come out to Amanda Seales' Black Outside Again tour, because we are Black outside again. That's
right.
And we got to raise up and rise up.
I love talking to personalities that can do radio and podcasts and everything. It makes it so easy, so light. It's Amanda Seales. We love you, Seales.
Thank you. Love y'all too.
Breakfast Club.